Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to this week's edition of From Dena's Desk. I am Dena, your career and life coach, and I thank you so much for tuning in and thank you so much for joining me. This week's edition is going to be about 10 tips to getting a job long distance. 10 tips to getting a job long distance. Sometimes as you go throughout your career, you may need to relocate. Sometimes you may voluntarily want to relocate, and sometimes based on what happens in life as you go through life's ups and downs, you just need to relocate. Either way, you can be successful if you plan effectively and if you have a strategy that will help level the playing field between you and the local candidates. That is the key, to make sure that you level the playing field between those that are locally in the area you want to move to and yourself being someone coming from out of town. I have relocated 4 times throughout my career to different cities and states, and I put together a list of some of the best practices and some tips that I use to be able to relocate and get a job long distance the different 4 times throughout my career, and I want to share those with you today. So let's get started. The first thing that I would recommend is that you start early. You definitely want to make sure that you start early because you want to come up with an effective plan and strategy, and relocating is a major undertaking. It's not something to be taken lightly, and you want to make sure that you dot all your I's and that you cross all of your T's. You want to make sure that you're doing that and that you're making the best decision for yourself that's going to land you where you want to be and get you the job that you want in your desired area. So I would recommend about 9 to 12 months in advance. Give yourself 9 to 12 months to really come up with a plan, to really think it through and make sure that you are able to check off everything on your list and do everything that you need to do to make this a successful transition. And within that 9 to 12 months, you also want to make sure that you're saving up your money, because obviously anytime you're going to be relocating, it's going to cost money. To go from one state to another or even one city to another is going to cost money. You may need to look for housing. You may need to make multiple trips to go back and forth to the location. So that may be plane tickets. There may be hotel reservations and things of that nature. So of course, all of that costs money. So you want to have some time to save up your money and be prepared for that. And then also you want to be mindful of saving up your vacation time, because if you're going to need days off to go to the location and to have time off for interviewing and things of that nature, you're going to need to save up your vacation time. So this is why I'm recommending that you have about 9 to 12 months to come up with a plan. Take your time, make sure you're doing what's going to work for you, and make sure you're dotting all your I's and crossing all of your T's. Number 2 is take your address off of your resume. So if you have your resume currently at the top, you probably have your name, your phone number, your email address, probably your address, and then maybe your LinkedIn profile hyperlink. I would recommend that you take that address off. And why do I say that? Because again, you're trying to level the playing field. You want to level the playing field between yourself and people who live there locally. And of course, people look at your resume from top to bottom. So you don't want a recruiter or a hiring manager to readily disqualify you, or you don't want to right away create any kind of obstacles or disadvantage because they look and see that you don't live in the local area and you are competing against maybe 100 other people who are trying to get that same job. So you just don't want to create anything right out the gate that's going to disqualify you or kind of put you at the bottom of the pile and make them readily go to other candidates that are local. So I would just recommend not having your address and not even having your city and state on your resume at all. Number 3 is I would recommend that you look at websites specifically for that area. Then I know you may be looking at Indeed.com, you may be looking at positions, you may be looking at LinkedIn, and you may be looking at a number of other websites that you're going to be using, but I would recommend that you kind of hone it down and kind of look at more of a niche market. So say for instance, if you know you want to move to the Dallas area, you may want to go to dfwjobs.com. You may want to, if you're going to the hospitality area, you may want to look at DallasHospitalityJobs.com. You may want to look into the Dallas newspaper, go specifically to their website, go specifically to their workforce centers in that particular city. So not just being broad and looking at Indeed or LinkedIn, you want to kind of hone in and make sure that you're going specifically to those websites. So I'm not exactly saying Dallas Hospitality Jobs is a website. I'm just giving you an example. Look up the city, look up the industry, put the word jobs behind it.com, and that would be a great place to start to look for those niche jobs in that particular city. And then you can also Google. If you want a particular job in engineering, then start Googling engineering jobs, Dallas, Texas. And that way it'll bring back those specific jobs in that particular demographic. Then number 4, I suggest that you pick 10 companies that you want to work for. So again, we're trying to hone in. We're trying to make our job search a little bit more niche, have more of a niche job search. We're kind of narrow it down. So I would recommend that you pick 10 different companies that you would like to work for. Make a list of 10 companies. You don't want to just randomly apply for jobs because that's going to be unproductive and you're really just going to frustrate yourself and you're going to stretch this process out much longer than it has to be. I would recommend that you think about 10 companies that you want to work for, make a list, and then you want to start coming up with a plan on how you can get inside of those companies. How can you kind of go in through the back door of those companies and how can you kind of access the hidden job market? So I would recommend that you do that. I would recommend that you follow those companies on their social media pages because that's where they're going to be advertising their job openings. That's where they're going to be advertising if they have any networking events. And a lot of times you will be able to interact with a live person. You'll be able to reply back to a tweet, or you'll be able to maybe come into their DM and maybe ask them about a networking event. So certainly pick those 10 companies, follow them on social media, and start to interact with them accordingly. And then once you have those 10 companies, you want to use LinkedIn to the best of your ability to network. And that's tip number 5. Use LinkedIn to network and to connect with people who are currently working in the company. And once you have that list of 10, you want to decide who is the best person to reach out to, whether it's going to be somebody in human resources, whether it's going to be maybe a recruiter, or maybe it's going to be a hiring manager, or just somebody that you may know or someone you have something in common with that works at that company. And you want to reach out to them, and you want to make sure that you're very professional and just let them know, I saw your profile, I saw that you work for company XYZ, and I would love to be in your network. You want to keep it very simple and very just short, sweet, to the point, and just make sure you're very professional. Flattery also works. So you may want to say, you have a very impressive background and I'm looking to transition into this particular industry. I would love to be in your network. I've used this tactic several times and it has worked well for me when I was professional, when I was short, sweet, to the point, and then I wasn't stalking them. You know, you want to be bold and you want to be intentional, but you don't want to be overbearing, right? Because they don't necessarily have to connect with you and they really don't have to, speak with you. So you want to make sure that you're professional, you reach out to them, use flattery, and let them know that, I just applied for this particular position within your department, and I would love to have you in your network. And then you may want to just kind of let that invite sit there once they've connected with you, let that sit there for a week or two, and then maybe come back and say, since I've applied for this particular job within your department, I would love if I could maybe chat with you. And maybe, they'll be willing to jump on a Zoom call or chat with you, or maybe even just email you within the LinkedIn DM or an email to talk about the position a little bit further. So you kind of have to really kind of feel the person out and make sure and kind of gauge what it is they are wanting to do and how they're wanting to interact with you. But you want to take those 10 companies, figure out who is the best person that you want to connect with so you can get more information and kind of start to develop a relationship with that person, with the ultimate goal being them sending your resume to the right person, giving you some company insight, maybe kind of giving you a leg up on when positions are going to be open and things of that nature. So it's very important that you reach out and use LinkedIn to the best of your ability and really use that to your advantage. The next thing that I would recommend is that you change your LinkedIn header. So LinkedIn allows you to say that you are open to work, okay? And I want to share my screen and show you and give you an example of what I am talking about. So once you are on your LinkedIn page, you want to go to the very top, which is the header. And it says open to. You see a button here that says open to. And you want to click open to, and it says finding a new job. You want to click that. And you can put in up to 5 job titles. So whatever the title is, you want to type it here and you want to put it on your page so that people are clear what you're looking for. And whenever you select open to, it's only going to be open to people who identify as recruiters. It's not going to be open to just everybody. It's going to be open to people who are recruiters. So so you don't have to worry about your current supervisor or anyone from your current company seeing it. So after you've added your 5 job titles here, then you can add your location. And so you can add up to 5 different locations, and you just type them in and just put them on your profile. And let them know if you're open to remote work, when you can start, full-time, part-time, so on and so forth, and then you'll just add that to your profile. And I recommend that you do that so that when recruiters in these particular areas are out there looking for candidates, they will know that you want to relocate to their area. So that's something that is a tip or a trick that LinkedIn has put into place, and it's something that I recommend that you do. So the next thing that I recommend that you do is I recommend that you familiarize yourself with virtual technology. I recommend that you familiarize yourself with 2 or 3 different platforms that you can be prepared to have your virtual interview. Because of course, if you're going to be long distance, 9 times out of 10, you're going to do your first maybe 1 or 2 rounds of interviews virtually before they decide to maybe have you come in. So maybe that might be Zoom, that might be MS Teams, or that may be WebEx, or there's a host of other platforms. You want to make sure that you're familiar with a few of them so that whenever it's time for you to have your interview, that's one less thing that you have to worry about. And so if you have a friend or if you have someone that you can kind of practice with, that's something that I offer under my portfolio of services. I offer mock interviews to help you with that. You want to make sure so that the very first time you are on these platforms is not for your actual interview, and then you are nervous and you're unsure of how to log in. You're unsure of how to set your camera and your lighting and your microphone and things of that nature. So take the time to familiarize yourself with a couple of virtual platforms so that when the time comes, you are ready, you are prepared, and you're confident going into your virtual interviews. The next thing that I would recommend, tip number 8, is that you write a targeted cover letter. And sometimes jobs will require you to have a cover letter and sometimes they won't. But I would recommend that if you're trying to get a job long distance, again, we're talking about leveling the playing field. So you want to pull out all the stops. You want to do everything that you can to make yourself on the same level as everyone else that is local. So I would recommend that you write a cover letter and you let them know that you're looking to transition, you're looking to relocate, and maybe let them know the time you're looking to relocate. You may say, I'm looking to relocate to the Atlanta, Georgia area by the end of the year. I'm looking to relocate to Miami, Florida within the next 3 months. Kind of let them know so that they can readily understand that. So when they look at your resume, if they do go down to your jobs and look and see where you live, they know you have a plan to relocate. They kind of have an estimate in their mind as to, this person is serious and they're probably going to be here within the next 6 months. So this is a viable candidate that we need to be looking at. So make sure that you are writing that in your cover letter. And then definitely if you plan to make a trip to that location, you want to put that in your cover letter as well. I will be in Miami, Florida, the first week of May, and I would love to have some time to meet with you if possible. Go ahead and let them know that you plan to be in the area and go ahead and put it out there. When you're trying to relocate, when you're trying to get a job long distance, you have to be bold. This isn't the time to be shy. You have to go for what you want, go after what you want. So you want to put that in your cover letter as well. Let them know you're planning to transition, you're planning to relocate, give them an ETA, estimated time of your arrival, and then also let them know you're planning to make a trip and you're planning to come down there and you would love to have 20 minutes or so of their time to be able to meet. Okay, so that's tip number 9. Plan a trip to your desired location. So if you know you're wanting to relocate, go ahead and plan a trip down there. That's why I talked about those vacation days in the beginning. You want to save up your vacation so you can take 3 or 4 days. You may want to take a week off and go to that location, and you want to try to meet with the people that you have made those connections with. Those connections that I talked about when I talked about in tip number 5, step 5, I talked about making connections on LinkedIn. When you connect with that recruiter, that hiring manager, or someone from that company, follow back up with them and say, you know what, I'm going to be in Las Vegas, next month. I would love to meet with you if you have time to, meet for 15, 20 minutes over coffee. Go ahead and get those connections and then plan a trip there to meet with them. And then those companies that you're interested in looking for or working for rather, you want to look up their address and start looking at housing in that area. If you know it's on the east side of town, before you go ahead and look into housing. If you apartment, townhouse, condo, whatever it is you're going to be moving into, and you want to look into a 10-mile radius, 15, 20-mile radius, however far you want to live. This is the reason why you want to go down there, so you can check out the lay of the land. And you want to have a plan. Here are the 10 companies, and each day I want to visit 2 different companies, and I want to meet with 2 people. And so you want to plan your day out. So this is something that I've done in the past, and it worked very well for me. I'll let the person know I'm serious about moving, so I'm going to be there at the end of the month, and I would love to meet with you. And the person took me out for lunch. We had a conversation, and before I made it back home, the person made me a job offer. And I believe it was largely because I took the initiative to get a plane ticket, come down there, meet with them in person, show them I was serious about the job, and I believe that's the reason why I was able to get a job offer pretty quickly thereafter. And so the last tip, tip number 10, is you want to make sure that you research the salary and the cost of living in that particular city, because of course we know the cost of living is different in different places, and this is something that's very important. This is a very vital mistake that I made in the beginning. I did not do my research, and I was relocating, and I didn't know what the going rate was for the job in that particular city. So I lost out on thousands of dollars because I didn't do that. So that's why I'm telling you that's something that's very, very important. And you want to make sure you take the time to research and you know exactly what the salary is that you should be looking for. And so there are a number of different ways that you can do that, but the easiest way to do it is really just to Google cost of living calculator. You want to just Google cost of living calculator, and there are a lot of different websites that will come up. There is no right or wrong, just pick one, and you'll be able to get exactly where you need to be. Now, I happen to be looking at nerdwallet.com. Nerdwallet.com. This is the one that I happen to be going to because this is the first one that came up. Again, it doesn't matter. Just, the point of it is to make sure that you do your research, and you may want to look at 2 different websites. That way you have a holistic view of exactly what you can expect. And so you want to put in the current city that you live in. I just happen to use Miami-Dade County, Florida as the current place. And say you want to move to the Washington, D.C. or the Virginia area. This is just an example. And say you currently in Miami make $50,000. You can put that in. This is your income, and it will let you know that if you're looking to move to the Washington, D.C. area, the D.C., Virginia area, the salary that you will need to make in that same particular field, or you would need to make $71,429,000. Because it says the cost of living is 43% higher in the DC area than it is in Miami-Dade, California. So that's why it's so important to make sure that you do your research so that when it comes to salary negotiation, you have a clear understanding and you have a realistic number to target. And then also on this website, it gives you a lot more information. It talks about the average rate for a 2-bedroom apartment or for a 3-bedroom home, and it helps you to compare between the 2 places. It lets you know about transportation costs, food costs, entertainment, healthcare, and so on and so forth. So there are a lot of different things that you may want to take into consideration when you're looking at making your move, which goes back to what I said in the beginning about making sure that you are planning 9 to 12 months out so that you can make the best decisions and you can make informed decisions whenever you get ready to ultimately make your move. So those have been my tips. Those have been my tips for you, the tips that I have used to successfully relocate from one city to another. And this is what I wanted to share with you today, and hope that it was helpful to help you plan so that you can level the playing field between yourself and other people that are going after the same job. So thank you so much for watching. That has been today's episode. I am Dena, your career and life coach. And I look forward to speaking to you every Tuesday right here on LinkedIn Live, Tuesdays at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much and have a great rest of the week.